10 years ago today, there were 3 individuals responsible for Brent Martin's death in 2007 were convicted and received lengthy life sentences. The reality is that it's hate crime that is committed by friends of the victim. So, for instance, the presentation that I've done in relation to homicide, all 3 victims of the separate 3 homicides were all killed by individuals who they thought were their friends. Brent Martin 10 years ago, but also Lee Irvin in 2015 and James Prout in 2016, all of whom were killed by people who they thought were friends and trusted them, and those people abused that trust. It just so happens that all 3 individuals who were the victims were also had their own vulnerabilities. They all had disabilities themselves. In relation to James Prout, his vulnerability became apparent during the course of his abuse, and he became so vulnerable to their assaults that he became a vulnerable adult himself.
So 10th anniversary of the conviction of the murderers of Brent Martin. It's an opportune time to revisit, take a temperature, see where we are. And I'll be honest with you, I think things like personal independence payments, universal credit, social reforms and the birth of the internet, actually people with learning difficulties are probably at more risk now, if anything, than in the days of Brent Martin. We've done an awful lot in the North East to raise awareness of the abuse of children in terms of high profile cases around that. What we don't talk about as much is the abuse of vulnerable adults, and they're highly vulnerable. Brent's mum, she's been so incredibly supportive and really pleased with what we're trying to do. Proud Sunderland lad, we mustn't forget what happened to one of our most vulnerable people.
The organisation that I work for was the first organisation to work on the issue of mate crime, and actually came up with the name Mate Crime for the original project bid. And we set up a project with money from the Department of Health called Safety Net, which was the first project in the country that was set up exclusively to look at the issue of mate crime. We're aware of approximately 15 murders of people with learning disabilities that have taken place across the UK in about the last 15 years, an average of about 1 a year, all of which have occurred in very similar circumstances to the 3 cases that we're considering here today from the North East, all of which were terribly brutal murders. There are very obvious things we always say, kind of in the safeguarding words, where look out for changes. So if anything changes about the person, their appearance, their routines, their relationships, then it might suggest it certainly suggests that something has happened in their life, and that could be evidence of potential abuse.
North East is really famous for its solidarity. It looks after its own, but that's what we've got to really. That's at the heart of what we're trying to do with that kind of wider "Who Are You" campaign.